The National Alliance for Caregiving identified that there's 63 million American adults that is providing care for someone in the United States today.
Welcome, friends, to Investing in Faith, where faith meets finance in the most practical ways. I'm Bradford Hancock, joined by certified financial planner Michael Wallin. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Bradford.
We're here to bring certainty during uncertain times through biblical principles. And after this episode, go to investinfaith.com to connect and learn more. So we're going to open up today's episode with the verse 1 Timothy 5:8. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So we're going to be addressing the 5 most important things pertaining to our age and health during retirement. Michael, I'm sure you have a few things to share with us about that.
One of the things, Bradford, that really comes through this scripture and what resonates with me as I'm dealing with clients is that we often go through life very one-dimensional. We're not really reflecting or spending the time looking at the uncertainties that would happen in our life. When you think about day-to-day activity, we go out there, we may have employment, we go to work, we're maybe tending to our children, we're working on building a life. But what we're really not thinking about is the negative aspects that potentially could occur to us, and until it actually gets to a crisis situation. So the uncertainty that comes is because we haven't well prepared. Now, when we're young, we're invincible. We always think that nothing is ever going to happen to us. I mean, every time you hear statistics that are presented to us, everybody always says, well, that's not going to happen to me. It happens to other people, but it doesn't happen to me. And because we approach life with that mentality, we don't really prepare for it in the way that we should. So I would say that the number one area that people need to look at as it pertains to our age and health is to really assess where you are in life, assess where your health is, but also understand that there will be a declining point at some point. Life really presents us with 2 situations. We're either going to die too soon or we're going to live too long. And if we're living too long, over a period of time, our health is going to deteriorate. And we should have a plan in place that embraces that change in life. I'm above the bubble, probably on the back, more on the back side of life. I'm in the third quarter here. And just 8 weeks ago, I had an injury that took me way longer to heal from than it would have taken me when I was in my 30s. And, an injury that I sustained, that injury probably would have been healed in 2 weeks, but it's taken 8 weeks in physical therapy and a lot more care around that. I have to embrace where I am in this phase of life way more than being in the mindset of nostalgia of where I was 20 years ago when I was in my 30s. And so I think that's the number one point, is really having an awareness and looking at it. The second bullet point that we would really want to share with people is the statistics side, and understand that these do apply to us. And I think for those that are watching the show today, they may be amazed that the National Alliance for Caregiving identified that there's 63 million American adults that is providing care for someone in the United States today. In 2025, there is 63 million American adults that is providing care. Now, when you look at that, that's a little less than 1/4 of all U.S. adults is providing care for either a parent, a child, maybe a relative, spouse, a neighbor, a spouse, someone is, so out of 63 million caregivers, we could estimate that we probably have 50 plus million people that are care recipients. Mm-hmm. That's a staggering number when you consider that we have 370 million citizens in the United States total.
Yep.
And yet out of that, little less than 1/4 of every adult in the United States is providing care for someone.
That's a big number.
So when you look and you think about bullet one, where we go through life and we say that it's never going to happen to us, either two things: we're not going to be the caregiver, or we're not going to be a care recipient. Statistics, the numbers tell us that that's not factual. We have a high probability that we will be either a caregiver or a care recipient. And if we live too long, that numbers increase dramatically, because statistically right now, the care recipients are individuals 75 plus in age, makes up a majority of the people that are receiving care. And as we're living longer and our body breaks down, it deteriorates, we are going to need care from someone. So we need to embrace that and have a plan of action that where we can sit down, look at the journey of life, see where we are on that roadmap, and make sure that we've had meaningful conversations around it to say when and if that situation happens, we have a plan in place. Not waiting for crisis management to happen and then trying to get our mind around understanding the change of life, understanding the care that needs to be done, who's going to provide the care, and what is going to be the impact to those areas. And then what's that care going to look like? Is it the quality of life that a person really wants? So the third point goes to what I just said is, let's say an event does happen and a person's health changes. It could change overnight, or it could be over a longer period of time. But what provisions of care do you need? Is it something that where you need somebody to come in and maybe provide household care? Maybe it's home, cleaning of the home. Maybe it's providing, food preparation. Maybe it's, maybe that's the early stages. Maybe it's a person that can't go out and mow their yard any longer. I mean, those are like on the surface level. But as a person's health continues to deteriorate, what additional needs are they going to have? Is it going to get to the point where 6 of their daily assisted living activities change? Maybe getting up and getting dressed. They're not able to do that.
Medical or med management.
Med management is a big one. What if arthritis happens? What if all of a sudden we start losing our ambulatory or our mobility to go maybe from the chair we're sitting in today? For either of us, if we got up and we went and sat on the ottoman, or we got up and moved and sat in that other chair, that might not be a huge challenge for us today. But that is an impossible task for some people today. So what happens when you need that level of care? What happens when you need toileting? And we have a whole quality of life around that, where the family member that says, oh, I'm going to take care of mom or dad. That's great. I love their heart. I love that they're looking at Timothy 5:8 and they're saying, yes, I am going to make sure that I take care of my loved one. But what happens when that need or that skill care is beyond their ability, or that you start taking away the quality of life or the dignity of the person that's the care recipient? I know there's a lot of people are out there today that they will love to take care of, they'll prepare a meal. They may help somebody get dressed. When it gets to showering, bathing, toileting, that's a whole nother level of care that maybe a son doesn't want to provide that care for the mother. Maybe he doesn't want to take away that dignity, or a daughter to a father. Maybe there's a point there where it's like, I don't want, that's a step that really you have to get comfortable with being able to provide that level of care. At times, you might need to be a care manager, not the caregiver. But again, that comes with having a plan.
Coordinating the care.
Yes, you coordinate the care, because maybe there's a point where you can do the preliminary stage, but maybe you need to understand the need to bring a person in to provide that additional care that is more skilled, that somebody's properly trained. They understand the resources of being able to do it. Sometimes It's a physical inability for you to provide the care for a loved one that you would want to. If somebody gets to a phase of life where they're bedridden, one of the worst things that can happen for a person at that point is to get bed sores. So how does a 120-pound spouse move a 250-pound spouse that's bedridden? Well, you got to have the proper equipment. You have to have maybe tools or resources or maybe additional individuals to help you be able to come in and put a person in there. Gravity plays a huge impact. If you put somebody in a hospital bed type structure and they're elevated, gravity is going to move that person down. There's a lot of things that we have to consider in that. So really having a personal care plan is critical. And that's that third element of it, is to look at where a person is today. And you may be healthy today. Having a personal care plan is better to have that meeting while you're healthy and look at all the different phases a person potentially could go through and identify what would be done at each of those stages. Because what we're finding today, and this is a huge impact on families, is that 51% of all of the caregivers are females. So let's take a two-family income household, and they have a loved one, whether it's an in-law or their parent, gets sick and needs to have additional care. What typically happens in society today is that the female takes a step away from their career to provide that level of care. We're seeing those. That's the numbers that we're seeing, is that over 51% of the caregivers are the females. So they're stepping away from their careers. Now, one thing is they're providing care, but they may not have the physical ability to provide all the care that is needed. The other part is what's happening to that household. You could be losing 50% of the earned income into that household. You could have a dynamic where they have children that they're also providing care for the children, as well as providing care for the parent or the either it could be a family member, it could be a community friend that they're providing care for, but they've stepped away from their career. So how is that impacting? Now, the other part of it is we said that there's 63 million. So if we take that 63 million people that is providing care and just if we take a fraction of it and say 50 million of those people are doing this now full time. If we look at that, how much less tax base, Bradford, is being paid into the federal economy because of this? So if you cut your household income in half, your consumption in that household is going to go down dramatically, but also your earnings, you're going to have less money going into Social Security. That's going to impact your future Social Security benefit potentially.
Yeah.
The other aspect of it is as you age, you're still going to come up on Medicare. So you've paid in less into the Medicare system, but you are going to be a recipient of Medicare in the future. This is a dynamic that is of critical level in the United States, and it has got to be addressed because it's impacting not only the person needing the care today, but it's impacting the next generation. And what is a lot of those people doing? They're going out and using their investment accounts early. Mm-hmm. They're tapping into those dollars to subsidize for their quality of life. But what is that now doing for the next generation? Because their retirement's going to be reduced. They may deplete more of it, which could potentially leave no money for inheritance, or that next generation is going to become dependent upon their children. It is a domino effect when a person has a situation when they lose their health, because those are things that's got to be planned for. We cannot live a one-dimensional life and not keep in perspective the dynamic of losing our health. And, I didn't say it was the fourth point, but the fourth point was going in and drawing the money out of your retirement account prematurely and the impact that that's going to have. The fifth, and this is the critical part, is all of this can be planned for. Every bit of this can be insured against. We just have to elevate this critical situation to a higher standard. We have to look at our overall budget where we are today and say, we are going to make sure we insure against this issue. And look at long-term care. Look at carving out a part of our investment account and say, okay, this investment account is going to draw a return that is going to be used to pay for the long-term care insurance. One of my mentors in the business always said, if you would feel uncomfortable writing a check for whatever the expense is, then you need to insure against that whatever that event is that would create that expense. So in a situation, if you were looking at long-term care needs and saying, okay, I'm not going to knock over any more dominoes. I'm going to make sure that I have the right insurance plan in place to provide me the care that I need. If you had to write a check every month to an institution, and let's just say in today's time, that's anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000 in 2025. That's not inflation adjusting that in the future. But if we're looking at between $6,000 and $10,000 a month right now, if that check would be impactful to you and you would not want to write that check, then we need to insure against that. We need to put the burden of this over onto a larger pool of people, which is done through an insurance policy. That's long-term care insurance.
How affordable is long-term care insurance for the average person?
Well, first you have to qualify for it.
Okay. If
you qualify for it, it's way more affordable than paying it out of your pocket.
What do you mean by qualify for it?
If your health has not deteriorated, again, we need to do this in pre-planning, not in crisis planning. If you've had a stroke and you're functional, but you're going to need care, that's not the time that you go and you apply for long-term care, because you're not going to get a policy at that point. They're looking at two different things. When you're looking at assessing a person's health, life insurance assesses mortality. Long-term care assesses morbidity. Morbidity is where you have a decline of health, but you have a projection you're going to live a long time needing care.
Okay.
So when they look at your morbidity assessment, they're saying, we're not going to, if you come to us and it's an unknown, we're going to insure you. If you come to us and it's a known, you have a problem and we know it's going to take a long time, a long amount of care, they're not going to insure you at that point. Again, insurance is something that you apply for before you need it, not after an event happens.
Okay. But you were saying before that, then it depends on the...
It depends.
Okay.
So the question that I would say is, if you were paying, even if you were paying, let's say $500 a month, is $500 a month just as a number? And again, this comes part of the planning and actually getting an offer from an insurance company so you can put that into the overall plan. Is it better for you? Is it less expensive to pay $500 a month and assessing your overall budget and saying, this is more important maybe than the vacation? This is more important than maybe a brand new car, maybe a used car, you have to make concessions in your budget to whatever your earning power is. But is this need on the same level, or are you willing to self-insure against that and pay $6,000 a month, or roll the dice and say, I'm not going to do any of this, but I'm going to put the burden on my family that they're now going to have to leave a career. They're now going to potentially impact their retirement years or the inheritance that they potentially can leave to their children. So when you weigh out that economy of scale there, which one is more advantageous? One that gives you certainty during uncertain times, or rolling the dice and saying, it's never going to happen to me. And that is the element that statistics are against you when you believe that you'll just stick your head in the sand and believe that it's always going to happen to everybody else, but it's never going to happen to you. Where if you truly did an assessment of where you are today, are you as healthy today as you were when you were 20? Are you as healthy today as you were when you were 30? You know, I can only ask for myself of where my age is, but as I age, am I as healthy as I used to be? And if the answer is no, then I have to ask the question to myself is, well, 20 years from now, am I going to be as healthy 20 years from now as I am today? Well, if I'm on a trajectory that is on a decline, I have to have a real assessment and awareness that my future, I'm going to probably be less healthy than I am today. So if I really want to take care of my loved ones, if I want to do 1 Timothy 5:8, I really need to put a plan in place today so that I can make sure that I provide the best benefit to my family. I want them to be my care managers. I don't want them to have to be my caregivers. And those are the 5 points that as we age and our health deteriorates, that having a plan, really assessing it, having a meaningful conversation is critical where we are today, planning for our future.
Okay. That's a lot to think about for, I think, most people in our country. Where can they go to get more information about that?
Well, part of it, Bradford, I think is, well, they can come to our website. They can always come to our website, leave us a message. Go to our website, put in your ideas, your thoughts, your concerns that you may be facing today. One of our professionals will reach back out to you and have a conversation with you, share with you things that we have personally experienced over the last 30 years with our clients and give you a roadmap. Things that you can talk about with your loved ones. If you want us to be an advocate to help support you and in conversations with your family, we do dynamic calls like that all the time. So reach out to our office. They can reach us at 855-378-1806. Again, 855-378-1806. Go to investedinfaith.com. Leave us some information. If you like this show, connect with us. Go on and like and subscribe. Share this information with other loved ones and friends that you have. The only way that we can offset crises in the future is when we do pre-planning.
Michael, thank you for all of that information today. Very helpful. Yep. And if you want to learn more, it's investedinfaith.com. Like, share, subscribe. And we'll see you next time.
Optivice Advisory Services, LLC, Optivice, is an investment advisory firm registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The oral and written communications of an advisor provide you with information about which you determine to hire or retain an advisor. For more information, visit https://advisorinfo.sec.gov and search for our firm name. This presentation has been provided for informational purposes only and is not intended as legal or investment advice or a recommendation of any particular security or strategy. The investment strategy and themes discussed herein may be unsuitable for investors depending on their specific investment objectives and financial situation. Information obtained from third-party sources is believed to be reliable, though its accuracy is not guaranteed. Opinions expressed in this commentary reflect subjective judgments of the author based on conditions at the time of publication and are subject to change without notice. Past performance is not indicative of future results.